You know that feeling? You have a glass of milk and suddenly you're bloated, maybe a little foggy, just off. And the weird part is, you've been told you're not even lactose intolerant. It's super common, and honestly, it can be really confusing. So let's get into it, because the real reason might not be what you think at all. For like decades, right? The big bad wolf of dairy has always been lactose. It's the sugar in milk, and it gets all the blame. But what if I told you that for a lot of us, the problem isn't the sugar? What if the real story is in the protein? And if you're sitting there nodding along, trust me, you are not alone. That feeling, the bloating, the brain fog, just that low-grade inflammation, it's a very real thing for so many people. So it really makes you wonder, right? If it's not always lactose, then what the heck is it? All right, so let's zoom in a bit. We need to talk about the protein, specifically a protein called casein. It makes up like 80% of the protein in cow's milk. And the key to this whole mystery, the whole A1 versus A2 debate, it all boils down to one tiny, kind of fascinating difference. And to get even more specific, we're talking about something called beta-casein. This is our main character, the star of the show. And this protein comes in two main flavors, two genetic variants. And you've probably guessed them by now, A1 and A2. Okay, and this is the part that just blows my mind. The difference between these two is so small. We're talking about a chain of 209 amino acids, and the entire difference, everything, comes down to a single spot, position 67. In A2 protein, you have an amino acid called proline. In A1, it's histidine. That's it. But that one little swap changes the chemical bond, and that changes everything about how our bodies digest it. So where did this split come from? Well, you can think of A2 as the OG protein. It's the original, the one found in older breeds of cattle like Jerseys and Guernseys. It's also what you'll find in goat and sheep milk. The A1 version, that's actually a genetic mutation that popped up in European cattle a few thousand years ago, and it just so happens to be super common in the big, high-producing dairy cows we use today, like Holsteins. Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. What is actually happening inside our bodies? Why does that one tiny single amino acid difference matter so much when it comes to digestion? Well, remember that little swap? The histidine in A1 milk creates a kind of weak point in the protein chain. So when we digest it, that chain can snap right at that spot, releasing this little fragment, this peptide called beta-casomorphin 7. We'll just call it BCM7. But in A2 milk, that proline amino acid creates a super strong bond. It holds on tight, so BCM7 just doesn't get released. And this BCM7 fragment? This is pretty much the smoking gun. In fact, a major study from PubMed Central says it all. They found that BCM7 is tied to gastrointestinal problems that, get this, look and feel a whole lot like lactose intolerance. Sound familiar? So in 2016, researchers decided to put this to the test with real people who already said they had issues with dairy. And the results were, well, pretty striking. The folks drinking the A1 milk didn't just report more stomach issues, they actually had higher markers for inflammation in their bodies. And the craziest part? It even seemed to affect their thinking. Their cognitive speed and accuracy went down. And if you want a hard number, here it is. For the people drinking A1 milk, their digestion time, how long it took for things to move through their system, was slowed down by an average of 6.3 hours. 6 hours! No wonder you might feel heavy or bloated after a glass of milk. That one stat right there could explain so much. Okay, so the big question, right? If A1 milk might be causing all these problems for some people, why is it literally everywhere? Why is it the default milk in the grocery store? Well, as it so often does, the answer comes down to money. It's all about economics. Now, what's interesting is that the older cow breeds, the ones that are mostly A2, like Jerseys, they actually make higher quality milk. It's way richer, with about 4.5% protein compared to a Holstein's 3.2%. And that extra protein makes it amazing and more valuable for things like cheese and yogurt. But, and this is the big but, here's the trade-off. Even though the A2 cows make this richer, more profitable milk per liter, the A1 dominant cows are absolute production powerhouses. They just produce so much more milk. We're talking almost 1,200 kilograms more per cow per year. That's a massive difference. And for the last 100 years or so, the dairy industry has been all about one thing: volume. It was a numbers game. So the Holstein cow, this incredible producer, became the industry standard.
Nobody was really thinking about A1 versus A2 protein. It just wasn't on the radar. It was all about efficiency, and quantity simply won out over quality.
Okay, so that's the backstory. But what does this all mean for you, standing in the dairy aisle, trying to make a choice? Well, the really good news is that today, you actually have options. You have more power than ever. If any of this is resonating with you, here's a really simple experiment you can do. Go out and find milk that is clearly labeled 100% A2 milk. Then, for maybe 2 to 4 weeks, just make that your go-to dairy. And just listen to your body. Pay attention. How's your digestion? How's your head feeling? You'll probably get your answer pretty quick. And thankfully, finding A2 milk is getting way easier. You'll see major brands offering it right in the regular grocery store. Don't forget, goat's milk and sheep's milk are naturally A2, so those are great options too. Plus, if you have access to small local farms, a lot of them use those awesome heritage breeds like Jerseys. And for the farmers themselves, it's easy to be sure. They can just do a simple test on their cow's milk or blood. So when you step back and look at the whole picture, it's a pretty fascinating story, isn't it? We spent a century pushing for more and more and more milk, and that gave us a world dominated by the A1 protein. But now, as we're learning more about how our bodies work, it kind of seems like that original ancestral A2 protein might be the better choice for a lot of us. It really makes you wonder, maybe the future of dairy is actually hidden in its past.